All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Friday, March 25th edition of the Fireside Friday Singles from Mars pre-show, where we're going to count down albums 53 to 16, what my patrons voted anyway. And so just to break it down for those of you that are listening to this after the fact, anyone who's maybe joining us, my patrons sent in their top 10 albums for 1982, which is the album that we're going to be discussing. And then they were ranked based on where they were selected by the patrons on their list. So if the album was voted number one, it received 10 points. If it was voted number two, it received 9 points, all the way down to 10, which got 1 point. So based on that, I compiled this list and was able to come up with an overall count of what the patrons have voted their favorite album of 1982. So anyway, so we're going to be counting that stuff down. Of course, I'm trying to adjust my spreadsheet here as we're talking, and everything that I'm doing is coming up wrong. So, see, that's correct. That's correct. All right. So it's almost fine here. I want to welcome to the stage Mr. Jeremy Weltman. Jeremy, how are you, sir, today?
Yeah, hi, I'm really good. How are you?
I am doing well, my friend. Very hot here in Spain these last few days. I would imagine that in the UK, the weather hasn't been that bad either.
Yeah, we've had some really lovely spring weather. I was sitting outside at lunchtime. It's really nice.
Awesome. So real quickly, before we jump into all of this, the hot topic, at least I've started, I've been chiming in with a few different people's comments regarding the Skid Row, regarding the new track, which Johan has come up to the stage as well. Now, Johan, how are you?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Johan.
Hello.
Excellent. So Skid Row just announced a few days ago that ZP Threat is no longer in the band, that now their new lead singer is Eric, formerly of the band Heat, the Swedish band Heat. And they released the new song, The Gang's All Here, today. Produced by Nick Raskulinecz. And Jeremy, we talked a little bit beforehand about this, and you told me, because your wife is, if I'm not mistaken, a big Skid Row fan, you mentioned that you'd listed the song and that you had a few things that you wanted to mention to me.
Yeah, we played it twice this evening for the first time. The first time I played it, I really, really liked it. I mean, not just liked it, I thought it was excellent. It really hit me. I thought it was up-tempo. I thought it had a good chorus. I thought it was old school metal, of the sort of the 80s stuff, which I just like that sort of thing. I mean, it's my sort of thing. So I played it to my wife, and she listened to it as well. She immediately said that she thought the singing was Bon Jovi. She thought it had a real Bon Jovi sound to it. And she likes that sort of thing as well. So, we're talking old Bon Jovi, not the new stuff that has gone off the boil. We're talking like, the heyday. We both gave it the thumbs up, and you can criticize this sort of stuff as much as you like, but if you like something, you like something, and if I'm looking forward to listening to the album now. I think it'll be worthwhile.
Excellent. Johan, have you had a chance to listen to the new Skid Row song?
No, I haven't actually, so I can't say much about it.
Okay,
but
can you
I
say
know,
anything about the singer? Are you familiar with him?
yeah, of course I am. He's somewhat semi-famous here in Sweden. Good singer, formerly of Heat, as you both know.
Right.
That's actually all about him that I know because he came from the some the Swedish talent show. So actually, I didn't pay so much attention to him, but of course he has a
Hmm.
good voice. So
Mm.
uh, no, to be fair to him, I can't say much about him. No.
Okay. Yeah, so he was on the equivalent of American Idol in Sweden, and he actually sung Skid Row's 18 in Life on there. He has a lot of covers on YouTube, including he does, I believe it's Headless Cross by Black Sabbath is what I saw. And the singing, I mean, it's not Tony Martin, but I mean, he's getting the screams in his own way and probably singing it better than what Tony Martin would be singing it in 2022. Um, so real quickly here, before we move on to the Cavalierish Dr. Poison, Andy is in Twitch saying hello to everyone. There's Anthony here on Fireside. Hello, Anthony. Hello, Woody. Hope everyone is doing great tonight. Dr. Poison, did you get a chance to listen to the new Skid Row song?
No, I'm kind of behind the curve here. But I do have some questions about this. By the way, hi, Andy.
Okay.
You said that was Andy on Twitch, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Andy, he's getting up to speed here. Going to be joining us on Trivia Tuesday again, I hope. So, and I'm trying to recruit some more Whizzical lads to join us. So, should be fun.
Awesome.
All right. So, I have a question, and this is for Johan. This new singer in Skid Row, is he the current singer in Heat then?
No.
Oh, so this is the original singer, or the guy that's.
No.
Okay, he's
Okay.
one of the who the hell's in this band anyway?
Heat has had two singers, if I'm not mistaken. Johan can correct me. Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Their original singer left. They brought this guy in. He sung on 4 albums, and then the original singer came back.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, isn't that confusing? Okay, but that'll never happen in Skid Row, right?
No.
I don't think so. And the thing it's funny because this was kind of sparked by a comment that Stevie Rochelle made about all these people that have been complaining, because I've been seeing, this is their 6th lead singer. Maybe it's not Sebastian after all. Maybe it's the rest of the band. And I responded to a guy, I said, right, but so it's their 6th singer, but Sebastian has worked with like 20 musicians over the years that we know of, and that's not counting Dario from Black Label Society, who he cheaped out and didn't want to pay him and split before, he recorded an album that he was supposed to record with him. He's supposedly not paid other people in the past. There's a lot of baggage there. Snake Sabo works for Doc McGee. He's worked for Doc McGee for over 20 years. He's managed the band Down. He's managed the other bands. So I would think that someone that would have the pulse on all of this would be him to know, okay, how much can we actually make if we bring Sebastian back? Because if you look at both of them are playing, both Skid Row and Sebastian Bach are playing venues that are between 500 to 2,000 people they tend to hold, unless they're playing festivals. And with festivals, they're playing with Warren or they're playing with other bands that are from, the same time period. So obviously you've got 3 or 4 bands, you're pulling in more people. Sebastian Bach seems to think that they're a stadium band if he comes back. Okay, now let's think about that. Motley Crue has to go out with Def Leppard, Poison, and Joan Jett to play stadiums. Motley Crue sold 100 million albums, over 100 million. Skid Row has sold over 20 million. So there's a big difference there between how much money one band has made, how much money the other band has made. A lot of people are saying, well, and this was an argument that Mark had, Motley Crue, they can go out with 5 buses. They don't have to interact with one another. Okay, let's think about what I just said. Motley Crue made a lot of FU money, where they can say, okay, I can spend 2 hours on stage and an hour behind closed doors with them without a problem. But Skid Row hasn't. So maybe at the end of the day, Snake, Scotty, and Rachel are saying, well, when we split this all, we're not going to be playing to 20,000 people. We're going to be playing to maybe 5,000 people at the most. Just to make a comparable example, Queensryche has sold the same amount of albums as Skid Row. And Queensryche is opening up for Judas Priest, Scorpions, bands like that. They're not headlining. To get into arenas, they're the second band on the bill for an arena show. So I personally don't think that there's as much money as what some people think Skid Row would make. Now, someone who works at Sirius responded to me yesterday and said they've been offered 8 figures to go out on tour. Okay, 8 figures is, let's say, $10 million. Let's say they get offered $10 million to do 50 dates. That means before taxes, before paying crews, before paying union workers, before paying managers, that means that's a $200,000 split. Let's say after all of that is taken into consideration, let's say they're taking $100,000 home. Maybe the tours that they're doing now, maybe they're making half of that. And maybe because they have income outside of the band, they're fine with that. So I think that there are a lot of things that people don't consider when it comes to, them getting back together and going out. I mean, I think we all know about, the kids wanting mom and dad to get back together again. But, as that may seem good in a utopian world, mom or dad may realize, what, after like 3 days, it's just not going to be worth it. So, and supposedly from what they've said is they never got beyond the texting stage because there were issues right off the bat. So I don't know. Jeremy, what do you think about that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I saw Skid Row at Download Festival many years back, and they were fantastic live. So I would like to see them again. So that, for me personally, it would be great to see them. From a financial point of view, you've pointed out all the figures. I don't see them being a massive band. They're certainly not over in the UK. They're not seen as a huge band. And you're quite right to say, Motley Crue are much bigger.
Right.
I see them on a bill with 4 other bands.
Right.
I certainly don't see them going out, on their own. I mean, going back to the Download gig, they were playing in the early afternoon. They weren't playing late on at night. They weren't. Right. They weren't even a sub headliner, But they were they were a great afternoon band, and they had a decent crowd watching them. But it wasn't tremendous.
Right.
They were probably around. I mean, I think that Twisted Sister were on a few years later, and they had a bigger crowd. So they're not. They weren't huge in around Europe. I don't think. Certainly, probably much bigger in the US. So
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also their biggest tours. I looked this up. Their biggest tours was opening for Motley Crue, opening for Guns N' Roses, opening for Aerosmith, and I'm missing another band. Oh, and opening for Bon Jovi, who essentially discovered them. Their Bon Jovi are the ones that helped get them their deal, took them out on the road. So they were opening for bands that at that time were playing large arenas, big stadiums. So it was kind of guilty by association. So they were opening for these bands, and they were getting a lot of people to buy their albums as a result. The other thing too that I've brought up that no one seems to have want to mention, because people have said, oh, well, Kiss got back together again, Motley Crue got back together again, Guns N' Roses. But there's one thing that's different that I think a lot of people don't realize. Skid Row as a band, minus Sebastian Bach, is from New Jersey. Sebastian Bach is from Toronto, Canada. He went to Los Angeles, was in Madam X for some time, and then he jumped on the Skid Row bandwagon towards the end when all the songs were already written after years of them playing them in the clubs. He was the final piece, and they're saying, oh, well, he was the missing ingredient that pushed them over the top. Okay, the missing ingredient before Bon Jovi discovered them, but had Matt Fallon have still been the singer, would they have received the same thing? Because a lot of people want to point out that Sebastian was so much of a better singer, so on and so forth. He never wrote anything. There's an interview that the guys from Decibel Geek did with Michael Wagner, and they talked about the fact that Sebastian refused to move on with the album unless they gave him a writing credit for a scream that he added to a song, which wasn't in the original demo. And Michael Wagner flat out said that he'd never work with him again because he was too much of a pain in the ass to deal with. So getting back to what I was saying, you look at Motley Crue, you look at Kiss, you look at Guns N' Roses, all of these guys came up through the ranks, playing the clubs. They formed a brotherhood while they were doing this for years in, years out. Sebastian came on late in the game, so maybe there isn't that same type of relationship between him and the rest of the band as a result. And ultimately, I think there's probably something that went on behind the scenes that we're never going to know, because the three guys that are still in the band won't let the cat out of the bag. And Sebastian just seems to be oblivious to whatever seems to have happened. So, Brad, what's your take on that whole situation?
Yeah, it sounds like. Well, I have one other question for Johan, and then I'll give you my take. So, the singer on this new material, is it this Eric gentleman,
Yeah.
or is it the Z guy? Okay, good. Because I saw them.
They fired the guy that was from Dragon Force.
Good. Yeah, he was all right. I did see them with him, and he was okay. But they're one of those bands I really just have a hard time enjoying their songs. I don't know why. The band is really good, though. I mean, the band is solid. They play really well. Seem like decent dudes. But and then your question was my take on the whole thing. Oh yeah. And listening to Snake talk about this, it sounds like he'd rather make less money and be happy than make more money and have to deal with Sebastian. That's what I get from listening to him. It's like, we're comfortable, we're doing okay. We don't. It's not worth it to them. So I doubt that. I doubt it'll ever happen.
Like I mentioned, he manages bands, so he's making probably more money outside of Skid Row, and Skid Row is probably what he does in his leisure time.
Yeah. He's a smart dude. I mean, he's not. I mean, he's a goofball in a good way, but he's a smart dude, and I think he knows what he's doing, and it's him and Rachel that are pretty much steering that ship, and I think they're on the same page with this. Yeah,
well, it's the two of them and Scotty Hill, who's the other guitarist. I know that Rachel lives in Nashville and writes music for other people. He makes a good living off of that, and I forget what Scotty does. It might be something along the same lines as well.
Yeah, these guys are in a pretty good spot because they're doing it because they want to do it and they just enjoy doing it. It's not like they have to do it. It's their pool's already heated.
There you go.
Yeah.
Johan, anything that you want to add, or do you guys just want to move on to the countdown of the albums for '82?
Move on, please.
Move on, please. All right. So here we go, folks. We're going to be counting down from 53 to 16. There were 53 albums that were voted on overall. A lot of similar choices this time around. There's a few that still you guys are going to be, wondering how they crept in, but I kept everyone's choices. So at 53 is Venom with Black Metal. 52, Steve Miller Band with Abracadabra. 51, Devo with Oh No It's Devo. And 50, The Clash with Combat Rock. Any surprises there for you guys?
Yeah, somebody actually likes Steve Miller singing Abracadabra. That's like one of the worst songs in the history of songs. I mean, the lyrics are unbelievable. Abracadabra, I want to reach out and grab you. I mean, holy crap.
I was going to say exactly the same as you.
Of course, Jeremy. I'm just glad you didn't say, what, I love that song.
No, I was just going to say exactly the same as you just said. Then that was hilarious.
Yeah, but how can I knock it? The thing was a hit, and you probably hear it in grocery stores, and it's embarrassing though. There's no way I could play that song. I guess if the band I was in demanded that we play it, I'd be like, okay, fine, and I will do my best at it, but the whole time I'll be laughing.
Well, lyrics weren't cavalierish enough for you.
Oh, you did. Yeah. So there he goes. That's Steve Miller.
Which Venom album was that came out in '82? Just remind me which one it was. Was it it wasn't Welcome to Hell with us?
No, it's Black Metal.
Black Metal, right? Yeah. So that one came out after. Yeah. Okay.
I'm quite surprised colors of metal
so low down, but.
Wait, you guys are talking over one another.
Sorry,
Jeremy. What did you say?
I was quite surprised that one was so low down because it had quite an influence on certain genre of metal. But I think it's probably the makeup of our patrons that has kept it low. I think if you had a different set of metal fans, maybe it would be a bit higher. Yeah.
Correct.
I agree with you.
Jeremy, do you think I should listen to that album?
No.
Okay,
you wouldn't like it. You'd hate it.
So Andy on Twitch is saying, I like Miller, but Abracadabra is bad. Is bad as in terrible. So
all right, cheers to you, Andy.
There you go. All right, so 49 through 40. 49 is UFO Mechanics, Toto 4,
What?
Survivor, Eye of the Tiger, Prince, 1999, Magnum, Chase the Dragon, Crocus, One Vice at a Time, Bad Brains by Bad Brains, Anvil, Metal on Metal, Twisted Sister, Rough Cuts, and Loudness, Devil Soldiers. Anything that sticks out to you guys there?
Yes. Perhaps Toto isn't metal, but...
Go ahead, Johan, go ahead.
Sorry. Perhaps Toto isn't metal, but, that album has sold quite a billion copies. And, I love that album. So... Perhaps that's perhaps the only vote that came from me, but and I'm not surprised. But perhaps it's a little bit soft rock. I don't know what you guys think, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that a number of us probably didn't pick the softer rock albums, but although they're great, and they're probably ones that we've had in our collections or we've listened to over the years, but probably didn't sort of see it as rock or heavy metal, and so didn't pick it. And given the fact we could only pick 10, I mean, I was quite surprised really to see UFO so down the list. And then I thought to myself, I didn't actually pick it in my top 10. So there you go. So even though I've actually got the album, I've got the original vinyl of it, but you just can't fit them all in.
Yeah. So Metal Dan in Twitch is saying Mechanics is not a perfect album of songs to make best of 10 and 82. So
no,
there you
it's
go.
not.
There's Metal
It's
Dan
not their best.
chiming in.
They're definitely not their best album. Yeah.
Yeah. Andy is saying Crocus carried the AC/DC when they were in a dry spell. So, all right. So let's see. 39 through 30, we have Billy Squire with Emotions in Motion, Billy Idol with Billy Idol, DRI with Dirty Rotten LP, Alice Cooper, Zipper Catches Skin, Sammy Hagar with Three Lock Box at 35. 34 is Pat Benatar with Get Nervous. This is one of two Spanish bands that are in here. You can count on either my brother or my cousin voting for Spanish metal bands. So there's a band called Obus that isn't a band that sung in English. They only sung in Spanish. The next band that will appear did sing in English, which we talked about in Trivia Tuesday. So their 1982 album made it onto their list. And it's Diamond Head Borrowed Time at 32. Connie Hatch at 31 with Connie Hatch.
Coney Hatch.
What's that?
That's Coney Hatch.
Eddie Trunk has always pronounced it Connie.
Well, what the hell does he know? He's from New Jersey.
And there has never been a bigger Connie Hatch fan.
It's Coney Shelley.
Ever known.
Yeah, we call it Cody Hatch.
Wait. Shelley's going to tell you how to pronounce it.
He's right. It's Coney.
Yeah. How many times have we seen them? A bunch. Okay? Yeah. We're like the two people who've actually seen them live.
Well, you guys are more cavalierish than the rest of us, so that makes
no
sense.
doubt. I'm going to get.
Oh, I can't tell you how many times this week I've just busted out laughing out of the blue out of just thinking of the word cavalier. So, there you go. Anyway, so moving on, 30, Tigers of Pang Tang, The Cage, which I'm pretty sure that you voted for that, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And Coney Hatch was, as you can tell, was something that Brad voted for. Never heard of them. Okay. I tell you, that was back in the day. Eddie Trunk would always freak out about people not knowing UFO and not knowing them.
And look where they are on our list.
Look where they are. Number 31. You've come a long way. You haven't made it till we name one of your albums here. There's no one. All right. So 29 through 20. Some surprises in here as well, where you guys are going to say similar to what Johan said with Toto, at least in my opinion. So at 29, we have Gamma with Gamma 3.
What?
Black Sabbath. What was that? Sorry.
That was a what? Sorry. Yeah. What?
Okay.
I'm doing Mad Dog Russo. You know him, right?
From yeah. I think I knew who Mad Dog Russo was before you knew who Mad Dog Russo was.
You're probably right. And before you knew
him he'd talk like that when he gets pissed off.
Yeah.
Mike and the Mad Dog in New York every afternoon. And don't ask them about anything but baseball, because it's the only thing they know about. Anyway, so Black Sabbath, Live Evil, 28. The second and final Spanish band in here, this is Barón Rojo with Volumen Brutal, which I mentioned the other day during Trivia Tuesday. Bruce Dickinson helped them translate the lyrics into English because their previous album was a big seller in the UK and in parts of Europe. So their label said, we want you to do it in English as well. And Bruce was there. I don't remember if it was with Samson or if he was with Maiden at the time, and he helped them out translate that. And the English version actually has them doing Girls Got Rhythm by AC/DC as well. 26, The Fast Times at Richmount High soundtrack. 25, Saxon, The Eagle Has Landed.
What?
24, Night Ranger with the Dawn Patrol. That was a massive album in the States.
Yeah, but Saxon's better.
23, Kate Bush with The Dreaming.
Ooh. That's a wild one.
Y&T, Black Tiger at 22. 21, Rainbow with Straight Between the Eyes. And 20, Michael Jackson, Thriller.
Okay.
So any album there that sticks out to you guys that you want to discuss? Brad, anything?
Well, I mean, obviously Saxon's not big with the general public. Just only really, people that have really excellent musical taste. But that album, I've worn that album out. I bought it, I don't know how many times. I had it on vinyl, bought it on CD a couple of times, because of bonus tracks and things like that. And that album to me, I mean, that's scripture. That's musical scripture. So there you go. It's a great album. If you want to hear a great live band, get that album.
Okay. Johan, anything out of those that stands out to you?
Yes. I left out the live albums on my list because otherwise Live Evil would have been much higher, perhaps one or two.
Right.
One of my favorite live albums of all times. The cover, the timing in my life. I was young and I heard the album. And now, as a bass player, or former bass player, I should say, the bass sound of Geezer Butler's bass on that album is absolutely fantastic. And the comment too, I left out, 1982 were a year of fantastic albums of all kinds, but I left out the non-metal or rock albums, perhaps. So perhaps some you guys didn't do the same. I don't know.
Yeah,
can you understand what I'm saying now?
No. I didn't vote for any live albums only because I felt that there was more than 10 really good studio albums to go from. I will say that there are 3 live albums. There's the one that Brad just discussed, the Saxon one that Metal Dan is saying Brad is right. There's Live Evil, which I've played the hell out of. Live Evil actually has my favorite versions of the song Voodoo on it. There's just something about the way it's on there. And actually, I really I know a lot of people hate Dio singing the Ozzy stuff, but I really love hearing him sing NIB. There's just a certain aggressiveness to the way that he sings that song that I've always really liked. I personally didn't vote for any live albums again, but I'm lucky enough that we had 13 people, my 13 patrons, vote on this, so I'm not going to take anything off of the list, even though Andy is saying, for example, Thriller should have been called Filler. So I mean, I get that. Not one of my favorite albums by any stretch of the imagination, but somebody voted for it, so it's there. Jeremy, anything that sticks out to you out of that group?
Yeah, just to reiterate, same with Michael Jackson. I was surprised to see it there, but it's not a rock or metal album, but it is a fantastic album. So whatever. And I didn't vote as well for live albums. I just want to take you back to album number 32, Diamond Head's Borrowed Time, which I picked. If you did a poll of UK metal fans, I think you'll find it'll be a lot higher up. And this is an album that, if you got Jeff Barton of Sounds magazine to give you his top 10, I'm sure it would be there. I'm sure the late Malcolm Dome would also have it. And there's some guys, I don't know if you've ever heard of them, called Metallica. They tend to like a bit of Diamond Head as well, and I think they'd have it in their top 10. It's an absolutely superb album. And that's all I'm saying about that one. Though the other thing about that album is it had a beautiful gatefold sleeve with a Rodney Matthews cover. So it had a lot going for it.
Excellent. Well, you need to, or we need to do a better job at getting more Brits on board to vote the British bands up there. Definitely, like you guys mentioned with Venom. I believe, let's see how many points that got. All right. I think Ed was the only one that voted for that. And that's along the lines of what you were saying before, Jeremy, that it's an album that was it was the foundation of black metal. The album is called Black Metal, and it's what pretty much made that movement sprout up. So a lot of what people are voting for is based on what they listened to as kids back in '80, or maybe they did a deep dive when they got into a band and went back and discovered some of these albums afterwards. I know for me, coming over to Spain and vacationing during the summers, initially I'd run out and get metal magazines just because I wanted to see what bands were big over here that I'd never heard of in the States, because it was so different, the Magnums of the world and the, Saxon, who I knew who they were, but they weren't in any of the U.S. magazines, but they were all over the European magazines still in the 80s. So, I mean, ultimately, what I love not only about the group that we have in Patreon, but the discussions that we have, and these lists, it's just talking about music we all love. It's about sharing stories about music we love. It's turning people on to things that maybe they haven't listened to before. And it's getting people reacquainted with albums that they'd forgot about. Metal Dan is, for example, saying that he forgot about Y&T. There's so much music at our disposal now that a lot of times you start to listen to things and you're like, wow, I really liked this when this came out. Why haven't I listened to it in so long? There's so many albums that happens with. Myself doing this list, it came down to yesterday for me with certain albums that I was like, oh my God, how am I knew my 1 and 2, but after that there was like 3, 4, and 5. It was like, I love almost everything off of either one of these. So which one do I really like more? So I literally had to sit there and listen to these albums over and over again until I made a decision. So
I seem to remember listening to that Baron Rojo album at the time as well, because I think, like you said, it was
right.
It was quite big in the UK. So I'm gonna dig that out again and try and listen to it. I'm going to try and find it somewhere. Presumably it's on Spotify or wherever, some other service, and I'll be able to try and listen to it again because I remember listening to it in the early 80s when it came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that band and the other band that I mentioned earlier, Obus, for me was like there's the emoji where you have the smiley face with the head being blown off. That was me in 81-ish. My brother had come back from Spain. He was several years older than me, so he got to spend summers over here before I did. And, growing up, you're used to listening to, in my case, my parents' Spanish music, and I hated it because I was listening to Kiss, I was listening to AC/DC, I was listening to Pink Floyd, and Julio Iglesias was not something I wanted to listen to. So when my brother came back from Spain with 4 cassettes, which were from both of these bands, split up between both of these bands, where they were playing heavy metal, it blew my mind. I'm like, wow, this music that I love translates into other languages. They're doing this around the world. I wasn't aware of the Scorpions. I wasn't aware of, a lot of other bands that were out there. I was too young and naive to know about any of this stuff. And at that point, for the most part, 95% of what I was listening to was Kiss. So that totally blew my mind. Anyway, so we have 4 other albums that I want to discuss here before ending this show. We are going to go live with the top 15 albums on the Signals from Mars live stream, which if you're here on Fireside or if you're on one of the social media platforms where this is going out to on Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube and want to follow the top 15 albums, you can do that. Go to MarsAttacksRadio.com and you'll find links to all the places where this will go out live, where the full show where we talk about the top 15, and we'll have, thought I silenced that, but I guess I didn't. Anyway, where we'll discuss the big albums, the most important albums of that year as per the patrons, but saying as per the patrons, but a lot of these albums were important albums for everyone, I think, that remotely like this genre. So at number 19, we have Gary Moore with Corridors of Power. 18, an album that actually got voted by quite a few people, but because it was lower down on their list, it only made it to 18. It's Manowar with Battle Hymns. That's got a few cool songs on it, but beyond that, I mean, there's maybe like 2 or 3 songs that I like on that. It's just not one that I really got into. I got into some of their later albums more. A band that we talked about on Trivia Tuesday, Mama's Boy with Plug It In at number 17. And at 16, this was a band that I voted for. This is a band that several people voted for, including Mr. Brad Dahl. This is Missing Persons with Spring Session M. Now, what? I wouldn't consider this full-on hard rock or nowhere near metal, because obviously they were more of a, probably known more for being like a new wave, pop rockish type band. I don't know how you would classify them, but Missing Persons were some ridiculous players. Terry Bozzio on the drums, Warren Curculio on guitar, and obviously Dale Bozzio, who everyone knew from the videos back then. Just ridiculous musicianship. All you have to do is listen to the opening track, listen to Terry Bozzio's drum fills, and realize what a ridiculous drummer he is. But Brad, what do you have to say about Spring Session M?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, mostly for Terry Bozzio, which, by the way, he wrote pretty much all of those songs. I mean, right. Certainly Warren had input on a couple of them. He wrote the lyrics for most of them, too. So, I mean, big credit for him for doing all that. I think the songs themselves, for the most part, are really good songs. I enjoy listening to them. I think the weak link in the band is Dale. Her vocals are really just kind of, they're just okay, but the songs are strong enough to carry it for me. And just listening to Terry play, I was sitting a couple of rows behind them at a Zappa concert, and it was before they had a bass player, and I looked at them and I was like, I'm gonna go talk to them and tell them, I want to audition for the band. And then I looked at my hair and I looked at their hair, and I decided, there's no way they're gonna let me audition. Yeah, just look at that.
Not
just look at the album. There's no way I can poof this up, okay? It just won't poof. Ain't enough hair.
How many of those guys were having had assistance with their hair?
Oh well, yeah, there's that too. I saw Terry Bozzio on YouTube the other night. real like an interview with him just in the last week, and God, he looks awful. I would have never recognized him. He must be having some serious health problems. He looks really, really bad. But he can still play. I mean, he played a little bit on the thing, and the guy is just incredible. Seems like a really good dude too. I'd love to chat with him.
Yeah. Jeremy, any of those albums that stick out to you? Metal Dan is saying Man of War is not solid enough.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Missing Persons. I've never even heard of the band name. I don't even know who they are, which is weird. But Man of War Battle Hymns made a big impression on me. A friend of mine had it when it came out that year, and I was 15 years old, and I thought it was quite a solid sounding album and a bit different, to some of the other stuff that was coming out. The Mama's Boys album I remember, but I don't think it made a massive splash. I think if you were into Mama's Boys, it was probably great, but they were not a massive band at the time. The Gary Moore album I do remember coming out at the time. So there's three on that out of those four that I remember. But I really need to listen to Missing Persons because I've never even heard of the band name.
Yeah, Andy is saying never gave Missing Persons a chance, but now I will give them a shot. So
there you go. Yeah, Jeremy, we can talk about that. I can point you in a good direction.
Okay.
Yeah. Johan, before we wrap things up here, anything that sticks out to you out of those four albums?
My vote for Manowar.
Okay.
As you guys were saying, it's an album that has perhaps not perhaps it has the song Manowar, Dark Avenger, and Battle Hymn. There are three really, really good songs on that album.
Yeah.
And the rest it's weak. So it's a strong debut album from them. And I love those three songs, and I still go back and listen to them. So I'm happy that they made so high up on the list. Yeah.
Cool. So we're going to wrap it up in a second. All day people have been asking me and saying, oh, these bands are going to be in the top three. What do you guys think will be in the top three?
Who's first?
I'm first.
Go
ahead, Johan.
Scorpions, Maiden, and Judas Priest. That's my guess.
Okay. Brad, what do you think will be in the top the top three?
Well, that was my top three, and either one of those albums could have been number one for me. I kept changing them, and I decided I was going to go with the one that I felt confident that I listened to the most. So we'll maybe you'll get to find out which one that is. But those are my top three albums. So Johan, way to go, brother.
Yep.
Jeremy?
My top three are exactly the same. Those three bands, I'd be surprised if weren't in the top three, but I'm thinking there might be one that is a bit of an oddball, and I'm going to throw in maybe the Kiss album, because I think Victor's going to put it up quite high, and I think maybe some others. So the way the points go, maybe it might have slipped into the top three, but I'd be very surprised if it's not Maiden, Scorpions, and Priest in some order. And it doesn't really matter which order because they're all absolutely amazing albums.
Awesome. So we will find out at the top of the hour. Remember, go to MarsAttacksRadio.com. If you go to the subscribe tab at the top from the menu, you'll find all the platforms where it will go out and stream. So you can chat along with us, add your comments with regards to the albums, if any surprise you, if you like any of them, so on and so forth. If you don't have a chance to watch or listen tonight, well, the episode will be released next week in podcast format, and it'll be up on YouTube shortly as well. On that note, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you, Jeremy, Johan, and Brad for being here, and we'll be seeing you guys in a few minutes. So thanks to anyone who was here. Woody, once again, as every other week, there were people that were jumping in and out. Andy and Metal Dan in Twitch. And I think that's pretty much everyone. So we will count 15 to number 1 down at the top of the hour. On that note, we will see you next time here on Fireside, and hope you have a great weekend. See you, folks.